Imagine the impact when everyone gets the right tool for the job. That's Odoo. Every app is designed to be easy to use, so employees spend less time learning the software and more time doing their jobs. Experience true speed, reduced data entry with smart AI, and a fast UI. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
Today is the worst day of Abby's life. The 17-year-old cradles her newborn son in her arms.
They all saw how much I loved him. They didn't have to take him from me.
Between 1945 and the early 1970s, families shipped their pregnant teenage daughters to maternity homes and forced them to secretly place their babies for adoption. In hidden corners across America, it's still happening.
My parents had me locked up in the godparent home against my will. They worked with them to manipulate me and to steal my son away from me.
The godparent home is the brainchild of controversial preacher Jerry Falwell, the father of the modern evangelical right and the founder of Liberty University, where powerful men, emboldened by their faith, determine who gets to be a parent and who must give their child away. Follow Liberty Lost on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Imagine the impact when everyone gets the right tool for the job. That's Odoo. Every app is designed to be easy to use, so employees spend less time learning the software and more time doing their jobs. Experience true speed, reduced data entry with smart AI, and a fast UI. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
A canoe grinds to a halt on the pebble-strewn shore of a remote northern river. Charlie McLeod jumps out, his boots sinking into wet sand. The evening light in the Nahanni Valley casts long shadows as he pushes through scraggly spruce toward a wisp of smoke seen earlier. Heart pounding, Charlie calls out for his missing brothers, Willie and Frank. There's no reply, only the low roar of the river and the wind sighing through the canyon. As he steps into the clearing, his blood runs cold. Scattered before him are the charred remains of a camp. Amid the ashes lie two skeletal bodies, sprawled on the ground. Charlie stumbles closer and makes a gut-churning realization. Both skeletons are headless. His brothers' heads are nowhere to be found. In the stillness of that moment, deep in Canada's Nahanni Valley, a decades-long mystery is born. I'm Sarah Powell, and this is Obscurata, because some stories have no ending. Long before prospectors like the McLeods ventured here, the Dene people had warned about this valley. The Nahanni Valley lies in the southern Mackenzie Mountains of Canada's Northwest Territories, a place of steep canyons and swirling mist. Indigenous Dene hunters avoided this land, believing it was cursed by evil spirits. They spoke of bad medicine in the valley, a malevolent presence that hung in the perpetual fog. Those few who dared to enter returned with haunting tales of unearthly shrieks echoing through the night winds, as if some spirit were wailing in the cliffs. Some even described encounters with hairy giants living in caves along the canyon walls. Primitive cannibal warriors, led by a pale-skinned chiefess who would kill and eat intruders. One Dene legend spoke of the Naha, a fierce nomadic tribe that once lived in the Nahanni Mountains. The Naha was said to descend to the lowlands, to raid Dene villages, until finally a band of Dene warriors pursued them back into their mountain stronghold. But when the avenging warriors reached the Naha camp, they found it eerily deserted. The entire tribe had vanished into thin air. The Dene took this as a bad omen. Had evil spirits taken the Naha? Fear gripped the pursuers and they fled, never to return to the valley. Ever since, the First Nations people treated the Nahanni with fearful respect, calling it Daicho, or the river of the land of the Naha. In Dene tradition, the valley was considered haunted and forbidden, a place where only death awaited those who trespassed. Such ghost stories might have kept others away, but by the 1800s, whispers of wealth in Canada's north were louder than those ancient warnings. The Klondike Gold Rush of 1897 to 98 had drawn thousands of fortune seekers into the Yukon. A few intrepid souls, chasing rumours of gold, eyed the Nahanni region as a tantalising shortcut to the Klondike. In 1898, a handful of stampeders tried to reach the Yukon by heading overland from Edmonton and navigating the white water of the South Nahanni River. It was a treacherous route through unmapped canyons. Many never emerged from the misty gorges that the Dene had long shunned. Canoes were found empty and adrift, their owners vanished. Already, the Nahanni was claiming lives, wrapping itself in an aura of menace. But instead of heeding the warnings, outsiders were only growing more intrigued by this untamed valley of mystery. In the early 1900s, the promise of gold in unknown lands proved irresistible. William Frank MacLeod were brothers of Métis heritage, experienced frontiersmen whose father had been a Hudson Bay's company factor at Fort Liard. They'd heard the campfire lore about murderous spirits and hidden troves in Nahanni, yet they were undeterred. In fact, a few years before Charlie MacLeod's grim discovery, all three MacLeod brothers had made an initial foray up the Nahanni River to pan for gold. That trip met with modest success, just enough to spark gold fever in William Frank's veins. The lure of a big strike enticed them back to the valley for a second expedition. Around 1905, William Frank set out again into the Nahanni, this time with a mining engineer named Robert Weir as their partner. They were seeking a legendary pay dirt spot, rumoured to lie somewhere beyond the towering canyons. Charlie stayed behind in Fort Liard, expecting to reunite with his brothers in a year or two. But 2 summers came and went with no word from Willie or Frank. The silence dragged on, and Charlie's worry turned to dread. In 1908, unable to bear the uncertainty, Charlie assembled a search party of fellow trappers, native guides, and even a former Mountie to venture into the wild and find his missing kin. Travelling upriver by canoe, Charlie's search party navigated rapids and thick bush, penetrating deep into the valley. After days of difficult travel, scanning the shores for any sign, they came upon a scene that would add to the Nahanni's dark reputation forever. On a flat riverbank, along a tributary creek, they found the decapitated remains of Willie and Frank McLeod. The camp was a ruin of burned tents and scattered gear. Both brothers' bodies had been reduced to skeletons by scavengers or time, and both skeletons were missing their skulls. Their heads had been cleanly taken. There was no sign of the third man, Robert Weir. Stunned and heartbroken, Charlie gathered what he could of his brother's remains and retreated from that desolate spot. When Charlie McLeod made it back to civilization, news of the gruesome discovery spread like wildfire. Over mugs of hot tea in northern trading posts, prospectors and trappers muttered about what fate had befallen the McLeod brothers. The place where they were found was christened Dead Men Valley, and a nearby stream became Headless Creek. The press picked up the sensational story, dubbing Nahanni the Valley of Headless Men. Suddenly, this remote region was front-page news across Canada, a real-life wilderness horror. Maclean's magazine would later note in 1947 that the gold and the headhunters of the Nahanni may be myth, its murders are hard fact. Indeed, here were hard facts. 2 seasoned prospectors, dead and headless, in the valley the Dene had long said was evil. Speculation ran rampant. Who or what cut off those heads? Perhaps the brothers had quarrelled with their partner. Some whispered that the engineer Weir may have murdered William Frank, then fled with a hoard of gold. In fact, there were unconfirmed sightings of Weir later in British Columbia, supposedly flush with gold from an unknown strike. Others wondered if the McLeods had trespassed on the territory of some hostile hidden tribe. Could the vengeful Naha warriors still be lurking in the Nahanni ranges, protecting their land with deadly force? Or did the brothers fall victim to the legendary Nahanni, the evil cannibal spirit the Dene speak of? Yet rather than scare prospectors away, the macabre tale only fueled their curiosity. If anything, the Nahanni's deadly reputation hinted that maybe there was something worth dying for in that valley. In the years that followed, the Nahanni continued to claim more lives. The mysterious deaths did not stop with the McLeod brothers. A pattern had begun. Prospectors, trappers, and adventurers who entered the valley kept turning up dead under bizarre circumstances. In 1910, a hardy Norwegian woodsman turned prospector named Martin Jorgensen arrived in Nahanni to try his luck. Jorgensen built a small log cabin near the Flat River and worked a mining claim for several years. He intended to settle in for the long haul. But by 1917, Jorgensen's dream met a ghastly end. Hunters came upon his cabin, burned to cinders, nothing left but charred logs. And nearby lay Jorgensen's headless corpse. Like the McLeods, his head was never found. The similarities were chilling. An experienced prospector, camp burned down, body without a head. It seemed the valley had struck again. After Jorgensen's death, superstitious dread of the Nahanni grew stronger. Locals began to speak of a curse hanging over the valley, yet the trickle of gold hunters continued. Some met ordinary wilderness dangers, drowned in rapids, falling off cliffs. But others died in ways that fed the legend. In the winter of 1922, a prospector named John O'Brien was found frozen to death on a mountain slope not far from Dead Men Valley. O'Brien's body was discovered hunched in the snow, a matchbook clutched in his hand, as if he had been desperately trying to light a fire for warmth when the brutal cold overtook him. There was nothing overtly sinister about a man freezing in the subarctic wilds, except perhaps the eerie tableau of his final moments. Locals still counted it as another life claimed by the cursed valley. A few years later, the headless theme re-emerged with a vengeance. In 1927, a man named Yukon Fisher, a prospector and part-time outlaw hiding out in Nahanni, was found decapitated near the same place the MacLeods died. His camp had burned down, just like Jorgensen's. Fisher had been on the run from the law. Now his life was ended by something even more brutal than any Mountie. Then, in 1931, yet another prospector, Phil Powers, was discovered headless beside the ashes of his burned camp. The pattern was unmistakable and disturbing. Headless bodies, burned encampments, vanished gold seekers. By now, the legend of the Headless Valley was firmly established. The last known Headless Man case occurred in 1945. An experienced Ontario miner, often identified as Ernest Savard, had come into the valley during World War II, perhaps seeking what others had not found. He never walked out. Savard's body was found in his sleeping bag, minus his head, with a burned-out prospector's cabin nearby. This grim find in 1945 capped off nearly 4 decades of unexplained deaths. By then, at least 6 people had been found decapitated in the Nahanni region since 1908. Many more had gone missing without a trace. Names like Angus Hall, Joe Mulholland, Bill Epler, and Annie Laferte entered the law. All individuals who had vanished in the Nahanni and were never seen again. Mulholland and Epler's cabin was later found burned to the ground, with no sign of the men. Laferte, a woman who had journeyed into the valley, disappeared as completely as the legendary Naha tribe. By the mid-20th century, people counted dozens of fatalities in the area. One account tallied about 44 people dead or missing, and another reckoned some 50 lives claimed by the valley in total. Each new discovery only heightened the mystery. Was this all coincidence, the natural peril of an isolated wilderness? Or was something malevolent actively preying on those who entered? The Nahanni's sinister reputation continued to grow. It was whispered that those who dared seek fortune in the Headless Valley might lose more than their way. They might lose their head. Faced with a string of headless bodies and strange deaths, people groped for explanations. Over the years, a range of theories, natural and supernatural, have been put forward to solve the riddle of Nahanni's mysterious fatalities. One theory points to the most dangerous predator of all, man. Perhaps the MacLeods, Jorgensen, and the others were victims of murder, killed by unscrupulous rivals or partners in greed. The story of the engineer Robert Ware running off with gold after allegedly killing the MacLeod brothers is one such tale. It's never been proven, but it's plausible. Remote gold country has seen its share of claim jumpers and cold-blooded killings. In 1947, a newspaper article titled "Headless Valley Myths Dispelled" argued that the headless corpses were likely the result of human foul play, not monsters. Some suspect a lone mad trapper or hermit roamed the valley, attacking intruders who encroached on his domain. Recall that Yukon Fisher himself was an outlaw hiding out. Could one of his criminal associates have caught up to him in the worst way? The idea of a hidden serial killer stalking Nahanni's wild is terrifying, but it cannot be discounted. Others believe the answer is more mundane. The men died of exposure or accidents, and animals scavenged the bodies. The valley is home to wolves, bears, and wolverines, all quite capable of dismembering human remains. Perhaps a prospector died of cold or starvation, and later wolves gnawed off the head and dragged it away. This theory could explain cases like Ernest Savard's or the MacLeods. After death, predators might carry off the head before human searchers arrived. Park rangers and locals have suggested this as a likely scenario in many instances. It's a rational explanation, though it doesn't easily account for the pattern of burned cabins and campsites that seem to accompany these deaths. Do bears set cabins on fire? Unlikely. The burned camps hint that someone or something deliberately torched the sites, perhaps to destroy evidence. The extreme environment itself is another possible culprit. The Nahanni is a land of dramatic weather swings and hidden geological hazards. Such blizzards and subarctic cold can kill unprepared travellers, as with poor John O'Brien freezing mid-strike of a match. The rivers can flip a canoe and drown even an expert paddler. Cliffs and cave pits yawn in the forests. A lone prospector could fall into a crevice or get lost in a maze of canyons, never to be found. For those who did manage to light a fire, there are other geothermal hot springs that release deadly gases. One could be overcome by fumes in the night. It's conceivable some camps accidentally caught fire due to mishap, overturned lamp, sparks, and in the chaos of an encroaching wildfire, the prospectors perished. In such scenarios, the wilderness curse is really just nature's indifferent brutality. Yet for many, the Nahanni secrets feel too strange for ordinary explanations. The pattern of decapitations in particular feeds these theories of the supernatural. According to Dene oral tradition, powerful evil spirits guard this valley. Perhaps those spirits manifested to violently punish outsiders. Some point to the legend of the Naha tribe. Could their warriors still be lurking, or a hidden society ritually beheading intruders? Others invoke the Nahanni, described as a half-man, half-beast wildman, akin to a Sasquatch, said to prowl the forests and behead unlucky travellers. There are tales of giant bear-like creatures, or even surviving prehistoric beasts in the Nahanni mountains. Indeed, local lore includes sightings of what sound like mastodons, or a monstrous bear dog from the Ice Age. Could an unknown predator be behind the carnage? One particularly chilling legend blames the Wahila, a great white wolf of the north. The Wahila, as told in indigenous stories, is an enormous wolf-like creature with supernatural strength that supposedly rips people's heads off if they wander into its territory. This cryptid wolf is said to roam the Nahanni region. To those inclined to believe, a giant head-hunting wolf spirit sounds like a perfect culprit for the headless corpses. Similarly, another folkloric creature called the Nukluk is described as a short, hairy, human-like entity, a sort of primitive caveman, rumoured to inhabit the Nahanni forests. Could a band of these ape men be eliminating intruders? Such notions verge on fantasy, but in a landscape as remote and unexplored as Nahanni was a century ago, people were ready to consider every possibility. In truth, no theory has definitively solved the mystery. Perhaps it is not one single cause at work. The Valley of Headless Men could be a perfect storm of danger, a harsh environment ready to kill the careless, overlaid by old legends that encourage us to see ghosts instead of facts. The headless bodies could be coincidence or copycat crimes, or they might indeed be evidence of something sinister hiding in the Nahanni. As of today, the secrets remain locked in those silent canyons. The only certainty is for those who braved the valley in the early 20th century, death was a frequent companion. There is another thread woven through all these tales of decapitation: gold. Almost every victim of the Nahanni's mystery went there in search of fortune. The MacLeod brothers, Martin Jorgensen, Yukon Fisher, Phil Powers, Ernest Savard, all were chasing the dreams of riches. The legend of a lost gold mine in Nahanni country is as famous as the tales of the Headless Men. After the MacLeod brothers' bodies were found in 1908, rumours swirled that they had struck it rich before meeting their end. People speculated that Willie and Frank had discovered an incredibly rich placer deposit or vein of gold somewhere up a Nahanni tributary. Perhaps they even mined a good amount and hid it. Their mysterious deaths only amplified the whispers. Soon, Northerners were speaking of the lost MacLeod mine, an El Dorado of the north, where gold nuggets the size of goose eggs littered the creek beds. It was said to be a strike so rich that one lucky find could make a man wealthy for life. The thought that such a bonanza might be lying unclaimed in the Headless Valley was too tempting for many to resist. Between 1908 and the 1940s, dozens of prospectors tried to find the lost MacLeod mine. Hardened sourdoughs from the Yukon and Alaska goldfields packed their gear and headed into the Nahanni, despite its fearsome reputation. They panned countless creeks, overturned rocks, and built sluices in frigid streams. Now and then a few flecks of gold turned up, but the legendary mother lode remained elusive. The MacLeod brothers themselves had disappeared up the shallow, flat river, or one of its feeder creeks. Many searched that area in particular, believing the gold must lie somewhere in those hills. Some hunters of the lost mine met the same fate as the MacLeods. They vanished or died mysteriously. By one estimate, 20 people died in pursuit of the MacLeod gold alone. Nahanni's hidden wealth, if it existed, was well protected by nature, or perhaps by design.
Imagine the impact when everyone gets the right tool for the job. That's Odoo. Every app is designed to be easy to use, so employees spend less time learning the software and more time doing their jobs. Experience true speed, reduce data entry with smart AI, and a fast UI. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
Over a century has passed since the MacLeod brothers met their grim fate, but the story of the Headless Valley has never quite faded away. In 1976, recognising both the unique natural beauty and the cultural lore of the area, the Canadian government established Nahanni National Park Reserve. It was one of Canada's first UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So what do you think? Real gold? Which creatures live in the Nahanni Valley? Or is it just pure accident and hazardous weather conditions? I guess we'll never know. But if you'd like to discuss this, the Facebook group is open for discussion from 9 a.m. I keep forgetting to actually post them, so I'm sorry about that. If you like paranormal stories, tune in to our other podcast, The Whispering Woods. It's suitable for children as well, as long as they're not too squeamish. I want to say thank you so much for listening. I do have a review to read as well. This is actually on Spotify and it's Jen's Matt. I love how well you tell these stories and thanks for bleeping out the really bad words. Much appreciated. Also, I kind of feel like Cindy was doing those things, not someone else. Maybe she was mental, split personality. Also, I enjoy your other podcasts, love the relationship you have with Toby. My hubby and I adopted a beautiful grey cat that we named Toby. He's a handsome boy, just like I'm sure your son is as well. As a boy mum of 2 myself, you can't help but see the beauty in your kids. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that message. And sorry I missed it actually last week to read it out. We've also had a comment on vanished settlements, and this is from Tati Momio. What a fabulous episode. I had no idea Edgar Allan Poe, Amelia Earhart, I don't think I'm saying her name right, etc. had Croton connections. Super fascinating. Thank you. Thank you both for those. And that's it from me. Until next time, stay curious and keep the lights on, just in case.
Business software is expensive. And when you buy software from a lot of different companies, it's not only expensive, it gets confusing, slow to use, hard to integrate. Odoo solves that because all Odoo software is connected on a single affordable platform. Save money without missing out on the features you need. Odoo has no hidden costs and no limit on features or data. Odoo has over 60 apps available for any needs your business might have, all at no additional charge. Everything from websites and sales to inventory and accounting, all linked and talking to each other. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.